The Hall of Blades stood at the heart of the Veari dominion, a cathedral of metal and memory, where the relics of 1,000 wars rested beneath eternal light. Pilgrims from across the stars came to see it. The sword called Eclipsera, forged before the fall of empires, said to be bound to the will of the stars themselves. Legends told that Eclipsera chose no one. It had lain in its crystalline cradle for over 3 millennia, unmoved by kings, generals, and prophets. Even the Veari, a race of beings who had once wielded suns as weapons, could not lift it, until a human walked in. His name was Captain Orion Cade, a relic himself, a soldier out of time. He'd fought in the Solar Cataclysm War, vanished during its final battle, and been presumed dead for over 200 years. When he was found adrift in a cryopod near the Persian Rift, the galaxy had changed beyond recognition. The Veari now ruled half of known space. Humanity had fallen silent, scattered into minor colonies and trade guilds. To most of the galaxy, humans were myths, fragile, extinct wanderers from a burned cradle. And yet here he was, standing before the ancient sword the Veari priests called unliftable. The crowd gathered in the cathedral's lower ring, tall, elegant aliens with skin like silver and eyes like nebulae. They whispered among themselves, their voices sharp with disbelief. "Another fool," one murmured. "He's human," another scoffed. "They don't even resonate with the Star Forge's energy. He'll burn himself alive trying." The High Priestess of the Blade, Seraphine Valis, descended the steps, her flowing robes trailing cosmic dust. Her voice echoed through the chamber. "No living being has ever lifted Eclipsera. Even the gods left it behind. Why do you seek it, human?" Orion met her gaze. "Because it used to be mine." A murmur rippled through the assembly. Seraphine's eyes narrowed. "Blasphemy. That blade predates your species." "Maybe," he said, stepping closer. "But I remember its weight. I remember its voice." The priestess gave a nod. "Then try, if you wish to die quickly." The air grew cold. The sword hovered before him, embedded in a pillar of crystalline alloy, its edge blacker than void and rimmed in pale light. The energy around it pulsed like a heartbeat. Orion reached out, and the room trembled. A deep hum filled the hall. Every light flickered. The Veari stepped back as static danced through the air, climbing up his arm. His hand closed around the hilt, and the sword moved. Gasps broke out. The impossible was happening. The ancient weapon rose like it weighed nothing at all. Its core flared to life, and the metal whispered in a language none but he could hear. Orion smiled faintly and whispered, "Light as always." The floor beneath him cracked, the cathedral's runes glowing in response to the reawakened power. The Veari dropped to their knees, shielding their eyes as starlight poured from the blade. When the light faded, the sword rested calmly at his side, humming like a living heart. Seraphine staggered forward. How is that possible?" Orion looked up, his voice low. "Because I forged it." In the silence that followed, the truth unfolded like a forgotten tale. Thousands of years ago, long before recorded history, there had been a war unlike any other, the Starfire War, fought between humans and Veari when both races were still young and burning with ambition. But back then, humanity had wielded technologies lost to time, shaping weapons from living energy, guided by sentient AI minds called eidolons. Eclipsera was one of them. It was not merely a sword, it was a companion, a guardian bound to a single soul. And Orion Cade, one of the last eidolon knights, had forged it with his own hands, merging a fragment of his consciousness with the blade. But when the cataclysm came and the stars turned against them, he'd sealed the weapon within a temporal vault, vowing that no unworthy hand would ever awaken it again. He'd gone into cryosleep before the collapse, hoping one day to return when the galaxy was ready for peace. Now, millennia later, he was back, and the sword had remembered him. Word spread through the Dominion like wildfire. A human had lifted the unliftable. The Veari Council demanded his presence, some calling for reverence, others for execution. Seraphine was sent to escort him. She found him by the edge of the starlit courtyard, Eclipsora resting across his knees. The sword pulsed faintly, reflecting the constellations above. "I should kill you for what you've done," she said, though her voice lacked conviction. "Then why haven't you?" he asked without looking up. "Because the sword didn't reject you. It's bonded." He nodded slowly. "It always was." "Do you know what it's capable of?" she pressed. "It could destroy entire fleets." "I know," he said quietly. "It's why I locked it away." Her tone softened. "And now you've brought it back." Orion glanced up at her. "Because something's coming. The forge is stirring again." That night, the sky above Vare split open. A fleet of Oblivion constructs, ancient machines older than any civilization, descended from the void. They were remnants of the same force that had once ended the Starfire War, autonomous, world-consuming entities that devoured suns and silenced worlds. The Dominion's defenses fell in minutes. Entire cities vanished under beams of antimatter light. In the chaos, Seraphine and Orion stood side by side at the cathedral gates. "This is your doing," shouted one of the priests. "You reawakened the blade, and they came for it." Orion tightened his grip on Eclipsora. "No, they came because they sense life in it again. The constructs hunt power, but they'll find something waiting this time." He stepped into the square, the sword glowing brighter with each heartbeat. The first construct descended, a vast machine of black spires and rotating cores. Its weapon systems locked onto him. "Orion," Seraphine called, but he was already in motion. He moved faster than sight, every step bending gravity. Eclipsora sang, a voice of ancient fire and grief, as it sliced through the air. One swing cleaved the machine in half. The shockwave rippled across the city, scattering debris like leaves in a storm. But more came. Dozens. Hundreds. "Can't do this alone," he muttered. "Then don't," said Seraphine, summoning the Dominion Guard to her side. Together, human and Veari fought as the city burned. Light and shadow collided in the heavens. Eclipsora shone like a star reborn, cutting through machines that had devoured galaxies. Each strike reignited fragments of Orion's old memories, of comrades lost, promises made, and the day he sealed the sword away. When the last construct fell, the skies cleared. The dawn light touched the ruined spires, and for the first time in ages, the galaxy was silent. Days later, the council convened again. Orion stood before them, exhausted but unbroken. "The constructs will return," he warned. This wasn't the end, just the first ripple. A counselor rose. "Then perhaps the sword chose well. The galaxy owes humanity more than we remember." Seraphine looked at him, her voice steady. "What will you do now?" He smiled faintly. "Same thing I did before. Keep the peace and keep her safe." She stepped closer, eyes soft. "And if the sword remembers only war?" He turned the blade slightly, its glow reflecting in her gaze. "Then I'll teach it what peace feels like." She hesitated, then touched his arm. "Perhaps it's not just the sword that needs reminding.